What's up, y'all? This is Throwing Light. If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. I'm LTJ Reeds, and I have another show here for you tonight. Tonight, I've got Miss Texas Leather 2024. Is it 24? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta use my because I was 2024, it's 2025 now. Princess Askhole is here tonight. We're gonna go ahead and get this show kicking off and started. So come on, Princess. Thank you for being on my show tonight. I know you've had the sash now since April of 2023. I had the honor of being in Austin King. I'm sorry, 2024.
There you go.
I keep I keep thinking we're in 2024. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
so glad that you were able to come and do the show. I really appreciate that. We haven't had an opportunity to do a whole lot together, but we have seen each other in spaces and we've gotten to talk. So I'm glad to have you here. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell everyone how you got involved in the community?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is exciting. So I'm Princess Asshole for long, PA for short, asshole if you're spicy. You can totally call me asshole in public, it's totally fine. I highly encourage it. Um, gosh, how I got into the community. That was 10 years ago now. I'm hitting nearly 10 years in April, actually. So that's kind of interesting for me. That's a big kinkiversary in doing things in the community. And I think like for a fair amount of people, like to be around for 10 years, like pretty actively is a little you don't hear that too much anymore. And like I'm only 32, so I've been around a minute. I got in out of actually getting out of kind of a string of abusive relationships. And it was somewhat after the like 50 Shades of Grey stuff came out. And while the books are terrible and I don't recommend anyone reading them, what it did do was actually give public access and a lot more light on the kink community. And so I had some friends who had been kind of in and out of it, and they were like, you should try FetLife. And so I got on FetLife and found Munches, and then I didn't stop going to stuff 10 years later.
So what? So where are you from originally?
Yeah, I grew up in the Dallas Fort Worth
Okay.
area. Yeah. Um, Born in Oklahoma, I've been around a little bit. But I grew up in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I left Dallas, where I went to college in 2018, and then I moved to Denver for about 3 years. I spent half of my time in Denver in lockdown, so that was fun. And then over that, I ended a 4.5 year relationship and decided I needed to come home. But I did not want to go back to Dallas because I still felt like I needed to find myself a little bit in a place that wasn't like as secure as home. I still had some friends here, and so it wasn't too hard of a transition, but I needed to be far enough away from home to find myself, but close enough that I could still go see my parents, which was nice. So I moved to Austin in 2021, and I've been here since.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
how was getting involved in the Austin community been for you?
Um, so because of my long-standing experience here. I actually ran TNG Dallas for almost 4 years. For people who don't know what TNG means, that means the next generation. It is a what's the A word? I can't think of off the top of my head right now. Affinity space for those people who are of age 18 to 35. And at least what I did for that group in Dallas was we had dungeon nights in which we either had like a themed party or education and or both. We had a drinks night at a bar, we had brunch, and we also had an activity social. So 4 events a month, almost once a week. I did that pretty consistently for about 3 years of that. I spent about a year in Denver, kind of like helping them transition to different people. Um, so the Austin and the Dallas community at the time were almost like sister communities. And the TNG community, we had something called TNG statewide, which was this like weekend, not a conference, but kind of a hootenanny of sorts. Um,
Hoot nanny.
Hootenanny. It was shenaniganery all weekend. And there was a lot of like community cross pollination there, and because I was very invested in the community there and the like success of it, we often like had people from Austin come up and do education, and people from Dallas go down. And going to these events, I met lots of people here in Austin. And so, and I had kept in contact with a lot of them through Facebook or through visiting or through, just other events that we happened to be at, like South Plains Leather Fest, Beyond Vanilla in Dallas. Um, I don't go to rope things. So that's uh, munches just kind of here and there. And so when I decided to move to Austin, I reached back out to my friends here and I was like, hey, I'm moving to Austin in June. And they were like, yay. But in around 2017, that's when the Texas dungeons really started to shut down. I was actually there for Dallas Sanctuary shutting down. I was there at the meeting and I literally put the call to the owner and was like, what's your drop dead date? And he was like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, then why are we here putting money into a facility that we know we can't get back off the ground? And he was like, well, then we have to close. So I was literally at that meeting. I was there with the fire marshals when they showed up. I have dealt with the police there, and then we were supposed to have TNG statewide in Dallas that year. Our hope was to kind of rotate it through. There used to be a space in Manor called the Community Place, or TCP for short, or the Place. And it was this kind of like built out house out in the middle of nowhere, which was great for what we were doing. But that year, everything really started to shut down. Sanctuary in Dallas shut down. The Lair in San Antonio shut down. TCP in Austin shut down. And TCP actually shut down because Sanctuary shut down. We ended up moving TNG statewide to back to Austin, and then 2 weeks before the event, we had to cancel because TCP got shut down. Lots of bars were getting raided by the police, at least in Dallas, for stupid shit. Like, and I understand why it's safety thing. Fire marshals were shutting bars down for like fire extinguishers and not enough parking, which is actually the reason why Sanctuary ended up shutting down. And those kinds of things. That was just rolling through the like nightlife in Dallas. And it really hit our community. Thankfully, there were some very gracious people who allowed TNG to access their homes for play parties and education. So we rotated through Fort Worth, a house in Fort Worth, a house in Dallas, and a house in Denton, which is about 45 minutes north of Fort Worth. And we were really like a DFW Metroplex group. The group ended up transitioning into TNG DFW during that time. So that's what it is, at least to my knowledge right now. I haven't been a part of it since probably 2019.
Okay.
I haven't touched a TNG group since about 2019. Even when I came back to Austin. And then when I came back to Austin, nothing was open anymore, except for Shrine, which is a monthly event that we have here at Colette's. You can go to, I think it's shrineparties.com or org or something like that. Shrine has its place, not for me very often, because they do a lot of blood play. And the owners of Colette don't like it, so I don't show up very often.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, in terms of, and being involved in the community and stuff, and being involved in doing all these things, what are some areas in the community that you feel need to be more improvement to where we can thrive and have more spaces like this?
It's really hard because in the state of Texas, it's very preventative. A lot of people have tried. It's also a money pit. And given the economy the way that it is, there are very few people who can just sink, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into a facility for people to just, do their thing like that. One of our community members, Wrath, did own Bacchanal. I was not able to ever go because it opened and closed before I left Colorado. And Colorado, like, sometimes does not know how good they have it. The police don't care. Kink to them, like going to the dungeon is a Tuesday night for them. You know, they're very politically distanced. And those are huge driving factors. Politics, money, religion in Texas, they're huge driving factors with the inability to keep a space like this open. Um, it's hard. Like, I mean, the reason we don't have those spaces is money most of the time.
That's
So it's
unfortunate.
hard to like improve economics in our little like microcosm.
Is there ways to maybe like come up with funding, fundraise, or ways to maybe put money into this?
Um, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like you need to have some sort of angel investor who, you know, who buys the facility, whether that's a house or a place at a strip mall, who puts their name on the dotted line. And that is actually the hardest part outside of the funding, is someone willing to put their legal name and tax records and anything like that on the dotted line to host something like this. Because at the end of the day, we still have to pay taxes. We still have to be legally accountable for what we're doing. It's kind of a miracle that the DFW dungeon, which opened, it's in a completely separate space outside of Dallas Sanctuary. That's been open since I think November of 2018. Um, which is great. They've been able to be open for a while. Sanctuary is open for like 17 years, but the politics are just totally different. And I think that we can fundraise a lot, but it really, the hardest part is the legal aspect of it and trying to play ball with the police, because that's also a very real thing that we have to do. Um, it's really hard. Like even if you had the money, the legalities behind it and the exposure and the risk is really, really high.
Mm. You know, that's something that I don't know. It's just it's amazing what money can do, right?
Oh yeah.
You can do so many things that you can't do without money. Princess, you know, you're I think very visible in the community, or more so very well spoken in terms of making sure that we call out things that we need, we can want to see improvements in our community, right? So so why do you feel, or what do you think is important about making sure that we are paying attention to what we're doing and who we're putting in leadership positions?
Yeah, I appreciate that you think I'm well spoken about it. That's cool. I'm autistic, so 9 times out of 10, I just get told I'm a bitch.
Well, check that. I did not know. Wait. I did not know you were autistic, and many people might not
Yeah,
know that. That's
yeah,
important. Let's talk about that for a moment. Is that okay?
yeah, that's totally fine. I'm very,
Please tell it.
yeah.
Tell so that look, you just dropped the bomb on everybody right now. Like
Did I?
this is a part of your personality. This helps us understand you. I'm very
Yeah.
fascinated. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I'm a ADHDer, so I have the 1-2 ADHD autism punch. Um, I joke about being a cunt. I'm reclaiming that word for myself because I like it. And like my name is Princess Asshole. I'm I'm not trying to make people comfortable with my presence here. Like and that's part of why I like words like cunt.
Mm,
um and so like part of my thing with my own neurodivergence, I'm witty, I'm sarcastic. I learned sarcasm at the ripe old age of 3 years old. So like I'm a very I think I'm not the like what most people think autistic is. And that like I get a lot of social cues. I'm a very literal person, which is really where it comes out, which is what most people perceive to be as bitchiness or cunty. And I mean cunty in the like derogatory kind of way, not in the like, yes, cunt, work, like that kind of thing. I mean a like, she's a cunt. um, and that kind of ties into like my you ever see my pin? I wish I had one in front of me. It says serving community cunt first. And I did my speech at Ms. Texas Leather about coming into the community cunt first And part of that ties into my neurodivergence, and that I'm really tired of like softening language for people to understand the importance of a topic, and like beating around the bush. Like I'm the type of person to be like, no, it's blue, it's blue. Like we're not it's blue, it's right here. Like
Yeah.
I'm very much that type of like at face value, like very literal. My last interaction was like my interactions with somebody are only as good as my last one with them. Like those kind of stay with me. Um so yeah, I
So what I'm picking up is that, you've taken essentially your autism and turned it into part of your persona.
I mean it is me. So
Right.
like
I'm saying, but
it is the
you're owning that, right?
yeah, yeah. And I'm not trying to make people feel more comfortable about what I deal with every day. Like
Fair enough.
I've got
Yeah.
my own struggles with it, but like
So, so where, are there any examples you can give in instances in which, maybe you've seen something or an example of something kind of in a general sense of things that we need to call out?
yeah. So being I have a few, some smaller, some on a much grander scale, and we'll see how brave I get today. Some I've already called out in a very large way, so we'll see. So some things recently. I am a Ms. title holder. I'm also like genderqueer. So like I own this like uh stereotypically feminine sash, but I do identify in the non-binary spectrum, even though I'm very femme presenting. And so, but what that also includes is especially in Austin, um, it is very gay male TM focused and centered. But we have the Ms. Austin Eagle, we have Ms. Texas, we have the Texas Pet and Handler, who the current handler is a femme woman, Dawn. And so like, we see people. Is it okay to name names? Is that like a thing that
This
we
is
can
a
do
show.
here?
No, everything's fair game. Everything that the community knows, Princess, is fair game.
Okay, wonderful. So like Luis, one of the owners of Surratt, posted online about a calendar. Um, and I commented on there, make sure you include your femmes because we buy things from Surratt. We go to the Eagle. Maxine was one of the other handlers. We love her. Dawn, myself, Sil, Mo, like we all exist here, and we are often put like, oh, that's right, you're in the room. Okay, we'll see if we can fit you in. Like that is very much how we go through life, even in the community. And that was actually a really big part of my spouse and I, Chris, forming Bat City Leather. That shameless plug here, but it really goes into it of like
It's
this
not
is
a
a
shameless plug. Go ahead.
of like creating a space that even if you weren't leather, you could come participate in. And there are people who are straight, there are people who are het, there are people who are trans, people who are high femme trans, people who are, identify as female TM. Like there's all walks of life that come through this group. And that's one of the things I love about it. But it is really hard to go into other events and just be the token woman in the room.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations recently with whomever runs the RGV Bears um, group on Facebook of being like, hey, this was like a few days ago, like Wednesday, right before Sil was announced as an ambassador. An ambassador, and I was like, am I going to be welcome? I don't see any judges, I don't see any staff, I don't see any entertainment yet. I realize they've posted it recently, of anybody that looks like me, just on the outside, anybody that looks like me. Am I going to be welcome? And they were like, oh, we'd love to get a picture of you and have you as an ambassador. And I was like, I would really like space created. Like, what can we do to make sure that I'm just like that you're just not using my image to make it look like inclusion. I want actual inclusion. What are you going to do for people like me to make sure that we have space? Or people who are others, like capital O others. So just not gay male TM, right? Uh, and so we've kind of been working on something. I need to follow up with them, but like that. These are conversations that I had less than a week ago. Um, it's hard for a femme out there, in a
No, you're not,
in a
and
gay male centered like arena. It
I
is
get
hard.
it. I know, especially in terms of offering access to like fetish clothing, fetish stuff
Oh
for
God, yeah.
females, especially in the kink. I mean, unless you go to some stupid novelty store like an X store or something, but like I will say it would be nice to see a section in a leather store that is catered towards those that are non-binary or femme or anything like that. I totally understand
Yeah.
creating the merchandise to make the change, right?
Yeah. And like, going back to accessibility, leather's not cheap,
It's
and
not.
custom leather is super not cheap. And
Mhm.
like, you can't tell from my little torso here on the screen, I am I'm a big girl. Like I'm I'm a mid-sized person. I've been an athlete my whole life. I'm stacked like a brick house. I'm super muscular. Um, but I don't fit into like Chinese sizing that you're gonna get
Yeah,
at the sex store down the street. I don't,
yeah,
I never have, and I never will.
yeah.
But like I have to spend $1,500 on a custom skirt to get anything. When I ran for Miss Texas, I am lucky enough that my parents put me into sewing lessons when I was a child. And so I can sew, and I made my own leather skirt for my own run because I could not afford another $1,500 for a skirt that actually doesn't fit. Like, and that's the other problem. Like, it still doesn't fit, and I needed it. Like, at the time, I was stepping down from my 20. I'm a previous Rocky Mountain person of leather from 2019 to 2021. And for my step down, I had Surratt custom make a top and a skirt for me. It was about $1,500 for those things, which is super super inaccessible for a lot of people. And I'm very privileged to be in the position that I am, or that I was at the time, to be able to afford that. But like, I cannot go anywhere off the rack. I can't even put on a men's shirt on the rack. Even if I'm wearing like my tightest binding sports bra, the 2X does not fit my body. Like,
Uh-huh. So, what are some solutions or what ways that you would take to move forward to fix some of these issues, especially with we're talking about the token female. Like, what do you think is the quickest way to respect for our community, our Miss communities, in terms of creating that space? How can we start digging with the shovel and get to work? What do you think?
right. So I think like any other like marginalized community, like we are a marginalized community of lots of marginalizations, and we call that intersectionality, right? So we're at the intersection of a lot of things here. Um, $50 word for you. Like when we put on events like Texas Sash Bash in next week, I'm gonna plug the shit out of that.
I'll be
I'm
there with you. It's a secret. I was going to announce tomorrow, but I will be at Sash Bash with you this week.
cool, exciting. I have to be because I'm helping put on the event.
Okay.
So, like when we're talking about putting on events, the forefront of people that do not inherently have the most amount of privilege and access to these kinds of events, we start at one. Like they are number one when we put and so it's like disabled folks. Do we have an interpreter there? Can we make sure that the space is accessible for mobility aids? That it's not too dark, that people who have low vision or can see, that it's not too loud, that people who are neurodivergent aren't like having a sensory overload. Like we start with the like most affected in the way, right? Like, and so when you ask about what can you do when you are on a judging panel So this is a very good example. When you're on a judging panel, you can ask that producer, is my spot could my spot potentially be filled by a woman in your community? Could my spot be potentially filled by a trans person in your community? A very good example, one of my friends was a judge at a contest, and she was the only woman. And I very specifically don't use the word female because that is related to our genitalia and our biological sex. And so I only use that in terms of science. So at the very like first, we can stop calling us females. We can call us women or femme, or just ask. Like we can start with language, but she she asked these people, name 3 women in your community quickly. 3 other women in your community quickly. 5 men could not. And so, and she was one of their state title holders as a judge standing right in front of them. They did not know who she was. And that's not for lack of her being out anywhere. People don't pay attention to us. And so we are still kind of the magic makers, uh, because of how our, Christian nation is formed around us, that the women take care of everything. They take care of the kids, the men, they take care of the trash, the cooking, cleaning. If you go to like a big conference, go see how many women are in charge of it. And I guarantee you, but the majority of the people who are putting on the show are women. So, and we don't get credit, and we barely get a spot at the table unless we bring our own chair. So, I think the best thing you can do if you're in a position of privilege or power is to advocate for us and say, like, have you asked Mo to be on this panel? Have you asked this person? How many other non-cis cis male people are on this judging panel? And that's actually the most disheartening thing to see is like single gendered title competitions having single gendered judges when there are tons of other people who could represent us. It's also really disheartening to be one of 8, one femme presenting person out of 8 chairs. Like, cool, you did the bare minimum. And so like if you have the opportunity to be a part of the change, like give up your spot, like put some pressure on producers to make sure that the femmes in the room get credit for the work that they do, that the women are also uplifted, that the trans people are also uplifted, that the POC people, the disabled people are also uplifted, and that they don't have to bring their own chair to the table that they eat at anyway.
So, Princess, we were getting towards the end. Before I wrap up, I want to just say that I don't know how many interviews you've done, but I would highly encourage you to do more.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
my reasoning for that is I spent 30 minutes with you just now, and I really have a better understanding of who you are as a person.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry. I just, in this conversation we had, I agree with a lot of what you have to say. I do. I just want you to know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I do. And I understand your approach now and why it just, I get you. I get you.
Well,
Okay.
I'm a little cunty.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but the thing is, it's you bring up a good point. It's not our responsibility to go and be like, hey, I'm this type of person because of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a life to live. And it's not if someone takes the opportunity to get to know you, then you can explain who you are. But
Yeah.
people don't do that. And that's what I've kind of been learning is that sometimes we just judge people, or think they're one way just because. And what people need to understand on social media is not our whole, it's a persona. It's something we go on there. And I just feel like we get so caught up in all of that BS and we forget that we're real people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When I was a producer for a contest, I coming from that same title system, I very much made sure that my experience as a title holder was reflected into how I produced, and like making sure accessibility was highlighted, and you know that people didn't have to go through what I went through. And that is like a big thing that I don't think a lot of people like internalize, is this idea of like, I went through it, so you should have to also, versus I went through it and I'm going to be a part of the change, so you didn't have to suffer the same way I did. Like, we can mentor over criticize. Like, you can just help the dude put his harness on correctly and not make him walk around with it upside down and backwards. We
That's a
could do
thing
that.
because I walked around with my harness on backwards a lot.
Right. We don't have
That's
to point
true.
fingers and laugh in the corner. Like, you could
That
just
is
go
a
up and be
true
like,
thing. You
like,
let me tell you something. Anybody that's kind enough to be like, "Hey, you're harm." I mean, come on now. We shouldn't want each other to be out there looking a mess. But that is a true thing. Look, I'm still learning. I'm still a baby when it comes to my aesthetic, and oh, I'm still putting stuff on backwards. So I totally get
yeah.
that.
And with harnesses, like, there's so many straps.
I
Like,
don't know what's
you
going.
can't
I'm
figure
like
it
the
out
damsel in
sometimes.
distress. Once a strap goes off, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So I'm just like, I
Yeah.
totally. You're exactly. I get that statement for
Right.
sure. I do.
You could also just pick up the trash off the floor instead of kicking it around for 30 minutes or like
But
across the
you
bar.
know,
Like,
people.
you could just like, period.
You could just. That should be a shirt.
Yeah,
You
you
should.
could
You need
just.
to. You actually need to like trademark that, and you need to tuck that away and make money off of it. Because
It's working.
that's a vibe. You just could. You know.
Yeah.
All right,
You
so we are at
could.
the end. I thank you so much for being on here, Princess. I really enjoyed this interview. I really did. I really did.
Thank
I had
you.
an opportunity to actually sit down and talk with you, and we're all different, and we all have our different approaches. And I think that having this conversation with you, the thing that I really and the thing I really want to see, and I said this, I'm going to say it right on here. You could just right, you could just get rid of gender and let everyone compete for a gender neutral titles, right? It doesn't have to be gendered. But you want to know what, Princess? We could do that right now. We could wait, you know what I'm saying? And I made this point. We can learn about, you know what? We want to show that we are showing equality here. We need to make sure we got 4 women judges here. We've got four, or not, we've got four non, but we need a diverse panel. I get what you're saying. I do agree with that. We do need to have more than just one person because it makes sense with you telling me nobody wants to be the token anything.
Yeah.
And I think that you're
Uh,
very right on that. And I do see that. And I don't want our community to go and be like, okay, let's just get, someone that identifies as a woman on here. It should not be like that. And, it should not be made to feel that way. But I really, 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 really am telling everyone that's watching this right now that you just could.
you just could
Because
ask. You could just do it.
you could
You could just
just
not
do
do
it.
it.
And I don't,
Like,
I've learned a lot. And I don't want, but like, what are we waiting for? You
yeah.
know what I mean? This is the time to do it, especially now. If we want women treated equally, we need to treat women equally in our community. That's how I feel. We need to be that change. And I see us caught up in these, petty, trivial things. And these are true signifiers of true change.
Yeah.
I've always been a big believer of treating women well. And I think we can do a lot better than just thinking we need to have a token woman on a competition. You
Yeah.
know what
Or
I'm
the
saying?
token trans person, the token black man on the panel. Like, it's not nice to be the seat filler, to be
Look,
the checked box. It's not nice.
here's a little secret with me. Look, I was so happy when Degrassi started having 2 gay characters. So I was like,
That, that, that,
finally.
right? Yeah.
And then, you know what I'm saying? Divert, there's more than one gay person walking around with it, so I think everything,
Right.
I really enjoy this. I really, like I said, I'm agreeing with this need to elevate the women in our community, the trans people in our community, but we need more people and we need more of these people helping judge who we bring into our community. It shouldn't just be like men being the gatekeepers, right? It can't be that way. And it can't be like, okay, well, we're going to give you this one little spot, but
Yeah.
you're not there because I've witnessed firsthand, and we're going to end the review here. I've been a judge in 4 leather contests. I've watched Leatherman not talk to the female person on the judging panel. I saw that with my own eyes. So
Or
she
talk
what she's saying.
over, or
Boy
talk
didn't
over,
go. They did
interrupt,
not. They did
dismiss.
not go up and talk to the women in leather. They did
Yep.
not. So this is
Yep.
not, we're not making this up.
Mm-mm.
We're not.
You can
All
look
right,
at the
Princess.
just the disparity between IML and IMSOL and how those things are produced, how those things are advertised, how those things are promoted within the community. You can just look at that alone.
So 2025, y'all, are we going to be better?
Yeah.
Because we now have people coming in if we're in the United States, we have people coming in, people around the world, you're watching this, like, this is the time to act right. And the one thing that I'm hoping as I end this interview is that we can have conversations and doing them in a healthy way, because the last thing I really want to do is to let the people that are trying to hurt us see us fighting.
Yeah.
So that's something that we can work on. But with
Yep.
that being said, I'm going to see you at Sash Bash. Me and Princess will
Be
be at
there.
Sash Bash at Austin Eagle Friday, January 24th. She will probably be there before I will. I will see you there because, I mean, current title holder. It's going to
Yep.
be a great weekend of different things. Just follow. Is it going to be promoted by Austin Geek Weekend?
I think so. It's
Follow
there.
the
Should
Eagle,
be.
follow the Eagle, follow Surratt, and maybe follow Austin Key Weekend. But other than that, this has been Throwing Light. So every episode now, Princess, I have everybody repeat my tagline, okay?
Okay.
So when I count to three, you're going to go, if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
Okay.
You
You're
ready?
not throwing light, you're not acting right. Okay.
One, two, three.
If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
Yay!
Cool.
I'm gonna make one like through the year. I'm gonna take a bunch of these and make a commercial with it. It's gonna be so cool.
There you go. There
All
you
right,
go.
thank you so much. All right,
Compilation.
well, that's it. I'm going to end the interview. Thank you so much for being on here, and I'll
Thank
see you all
you.
next time.
See you.